Monk mode gave me discipline when I was drowning in life. Monk mode gave me hope when I was suffering. Monk mode gave me a sense of achievement and fulfillment even when things seemed to be falling apart around me. Monk mode gave me peace of mind. We tend to think of January as the month for new beginnings, but science disagrees. According to many experts, September is actually the best month to kick off new habits or start reimagining your life. Thanks to at least a decade of training as kids, most of us still have a gut sense that the back-to-school month is a time for fresh starts. Plus, September lacks the winter gloom, holiday come-down, and credit card bills of January. If you're up for taking the experts' advice and looking to get yourself on a new track this month, what's the best way to approach making deep and lasting changes to your life? Changing your habits is never easy, but one blogger insists he's stumbled on an effective shortcut. If you want to really change the momentum in your life, set aside a week or two to limit distractions and dive deep into your new commitment by going into monk mode. How was monk mode created? During the late 2000s, there was a trend among young male entrepreneurs called monk mode. Everyone had a different idea of what that term meant, but generally it referred to taking a definite period of time, a week to 3 months or more, to focus with unusual intensity on certain important and fruitful pursuits, while abstaining from certain distracting or self-defeating activities. So basically, monk mode is like a challenge plus a detox in which you commit to a burst of work and promise to lock yourself away from all the bad habits that might get in your way. The basics of monk mode. Technically, monk mode is intended to take one's attention, which is normally outwardly focused, and direct it inward, in the attempt to develop high levels of mental clarity and productivity. With this interior focus, it becomes easy to identify patterns of compulsion or mindlessness, things that go undetected in the turbulence of normal life. This is the intention of actual monks and contemplatives who cloister themselves in monasteries for years at a time. We'll be taking this practice of introspection and applying it to our daily lives. Generally, monk mode has 5 main objectives: enhancing equanimity, increasing output and productivity, magnifying self-awareness, reducing mental instability, creating a foundation for self-sustaining good habits. Taken as a whole, this sharpens the discursive mind and turns someone into a weapon that can slice through life with discernment instead of the normal dullness of reactivity and unconsciousness. In my view, there's 3 types of monk mode. Complete isolation. In this mode, you withdraw from society and become a virtual recluse. This is almost impossible to do without living in the sticks or a monastery of some kind. If you're reading this, I have a feeling that you don't want to become a monk. Rather, you just want the benefits a monastic lifestyle involves. Rhythmic. This involves periods of near or completely near isolation from activities that provoke massive amounts of stimulation or do not move one ahead in life. Engaged selectivity. This is someone who selectively engages with various objects and conventions in the world and chooses to forego them entirely or practice shrewdness in relationship to them. Most people will find the rhythmic or engaged selectivity parts to be more of their liking. So let's head on. How to properly do monk mode. How to properly do monk mode. At this point, it should be quite obvious that monk mode is an intentional way of living. As such, there's certain things you should versus shouldn't engage in. Thing that you refrain from: social media use, max 30. Mins per day on all platforms, purposeless internet browsing, junk food and empty calorie food, sugars, sweets, salty foods. Sexual gratification of any kind, complete abstinence if possible, alcohol, drugs, or other intoxicants, intermittent checking of smartphones, in line, when bored, etc. Needless conversation. Things you should engage in. meditation, mindfulness, at least 30 minutes day reading books, getting into good physical shape, cardio, strength training, etc., purposeful and selective isolation, conscious withdrawal from social obligations, spending deep work sessions on important projects, skill-based learning intended to increase standing in life, completing backlogged tasks that were constantly pushed to tomorrow. In coming up points, I will teach you how you can apply it in your daily life before that. The main objective of monk mode. The main objective of monk mode is to improve your life. Simple as that. You'll likely only go into monk mode if you're unhappy with either your career or yourself in general. Most people who practice it are doing so for self-development purposes. They're seeking to be the best version of themselves, often mentally, more than physically. You'll aim to achieve this by cutting out several vices from your life and taking that extra time to be productive. So say you spend 2 hours a day on social media, 2 hours a day playing video games, and an hour a day browsing the web. In monk mode, you won't do any of that. You'll take those 5 hours and fill them only with healthy habits, things that are productive and good for you. My experience with monk mood. I've turned to monk mode in my lowest moments, times when life wasn't going well and I felt that something needed to change. And let's not get too deep here, but it was perhaps the unhappiest I've ever been. I'd hit a form of rock bottom and become really unhappy with who I was. And I'm not surprised I was a pain in the ass back then. I was always wallowing and complaining, playing the victim and not taking any responsibility for my own life. So I decided that something needed to change. More accurately, I needed to change. I wanted to become a better person, a better version of myself. So naturally, I looked to self-development. This kicked off an intense period of personal growth for myself. And my first experience with monk mode. What did my monk mode look like? As a natural introvert, I've always enjoyed spending time alone and spent most of my time that way regardless. Therefore, as sad as it sounds, I didn't have much of a social life back then. I still don't, to be honest. I've also been a thinker for most of my life. I'm constantly thinking and analyzing the world around me as well as myself. Basically, I take myself too seriously. As annoying as that can be, sometimes I just want myself to shut up. It has its uses. So before I started my self-development journey, I already had plenty of time on my own and a knack for self-reflection. Both would be amplified during my monk mode. With the resolve that comes from being at rock bottom, I launched into a packed schedule of self-help. Let me break down exactly what I was doing. Reading. I read books every day during this time. Not fictional fantasies, but self-improvement books. I'd read for at least an hour each day, if not more. Taking on new ideas and sharpening my mind. Meditating. I meditated each day for up to 2 hours at a time. These were by far the longest meditations I've ever done, lasting at least an hour and a half per session. Reiki. I practiced a form of alternative Japanese medicine called Reiki, more simply known as energy healing. Honestly, I'm not sure about how well this one holds up, but back then I was doing it for an hour a day. Exercise. I did some form of exercise each day during my monk mode. I alternated between cardio and weights each day. Watching inspirational content. I got really into motivational videos on YouTube and videos with big ideas. Stuff like TED Talks and those videos with the uber clickbait titles, Greatest Speech of All Time, or This Speech is Guaranteed to Change Your Life. It wasn't, and it didn't, but they were definitely worth a watch. A whole lot of self-reflection. I naturally did a ton of self-analysis during this time, examining the way I thought and acted. I cut down on a lot of things during monk mode. I played fewer video games, wasted far less time on the internet, and never really went out. I also wanted to cut down on sweets and sugary foods, so I limited myself on those too. All in all, the weekdays were pretty busy, but I had the weekends to relax. I still did some self-development, but I was left with plenty of time to do my own thing. At the time, that was basically playing video games and eating junk food. Now that doesn't sound too bad. You see, I didn't take it to the extreme and cut out everything bad. In fact, I didn't focus on cutting things out at all. I focused on establishing healthy habits and routines. The other stuff got replaced by that and naturally receded. Looking back on it, I don't think it was too bad. I certainly liked it at the time, and compared to some other monk modes, it was pretty tame. I ended up doing this for between 2 and 3 months before I burnt out, though it was more than worth it. My results with monk mode. Let me start by saying that the results weren't magical. My life wasn't completely changed by monk mode, and I don't want to offer you false promises to my viewers. That being said, this intense period of self-development came closer to magic than anything I've seen before. Though I suppose that's to be expected. What else would improve your life more than dedicating all your focus towards it? That's the simple and slightly plain truth of monk mode. Yes, it works. But for no more reason than you are putting in a ton of work while you're doing it. Hard work pays off. And once again, my life didn't completely transform in 3 months. I didn't actually shave my head during monk mode, don't worry. That's not a requirement. But to tell you how things did change, I'll break my results into a few short-term and long-term gains. Short-term benefits. It boosts my overall happiness. Despite what seems like a grueling schedule, I was much happier during monk mode than I was previously. My mood got a boost and I felt much more joyful each day. My mental health was improved. Before I started monk mode, I was depressed. It's the reason I began developing myself. But by the end of the 3 months, my depression was long gone, and I was much healthier mentally. My physical health improved. Not only did I become mentally healthier, but I also improved physically. The exercise I did each day ensured my fitness improved, meaning I felt better and looked at my best. My head became clearer. One of the biggest issues I had before monk mode was that I always felt dazed, like my life was a blur. My practice of meditation and mindfulness cleared that right up. I felt much more alive and in the present moment. Long-term benefits. I won't do a bulleted list here as the long-term benefits are far too vast to put into specific points. Just to start with, I could put all the benefits mentioned above into the long-term category. They've all carried over. My improved mood wasn't just a one-off. I've been far happier in general since this point in my life. Neither was my increase in physical or mental health. My head has only become clearer over time. Of course, that's down to a variety of factors, but monk mode was certainly the original source. The things I learned and the person I became in those months have carried through and evolved over the years to ensure I stay happy and keep growing. Those 3 months were the initial catalyst for the change and improvement that has shaped the last 6 years of my life. Yes, there have been many ups and downs. I wasn't praising my lucky stars that I went into monk mode when I had that little bathroom accident last year. The less you know, the better. Not a great moment for me. But I've been far more successful, much more myself, and way happier since monk mode, in almost any life aspect you can think of. Monk mode essentially kick-started a journey of personal growth that I'm still on now, and that personal growth has drastically improved my life. But enough about this. How do you actually do or implement monk mode? Make a goal. You probably already know what you will work on during your monk mode, but if you don't, decide before you start. Otherwise, you will waste a few days trying to decide while making no progress. You can pick more than one thing, but ideally one should be your primary goal and the others should help support it. If you decide you want to write a book during your monk mode, for example, you could also choose to do a daily workout and focus on your diet. Working out and healthy eating will help you focus and spend more time writing. Make a plan. Now the rubber meets the road. What are you going to do each day? Every good plan starts with a brain dump. Don't try to plan every task and schedule every day. It's a waste of time, and there's no way things will go exactly to plan anyway. Instead, block out your time each day. For example, if you wake up at 6 a.m., your first block might start at 7:00 a.m. I like to work in 2-hour blocks, but you should block your time in whatever works best for you. Aim for at least 6 hours working on your most important goal each day. If your goal includes a task you repeat daily, such as writing, practicing an instrument, or following a course or textbook, just pick up where you left off in the last block. If your goal involves much more varied tasks, like starting a business, you'll need a more detailed plan with a running task list. List your distractions. What are the things you want to avoid doing during your monk mode? Make a list of things you will avoid. Decide how long you will do it. Just decide how long you will go in monk mode before even planning for it. The ideal amount of time to practice monk mode is 1-3 months. In that amount of time, you will be able to make huge progress on any goal you set. However, if you don't have that long, just use whatever time you have. Aim for at least a week, though.